Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wrestling Review, where I plan to be reviewing every single Raw on Netflix for the rest of the year, 2025. First of all, this night was kind of billed like a pay-per-view, and it was certainly a very historic night. So we had a very good opening montage, which was very nostalgic if you're a long-time wrestling viewer like myself. After the montage, and there was a brief introduction by Triple H Paul Levesque, as he is now known, head of talent relations. Then the final boss, The Rock, made a an appearance which was not advertised before the show. And obviously, I thought maybe The Rock's going to build up you know, a match at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. We've heard that that was probably not going to be on the cards, and maybe the Royal Rumble, but in short, it didn't look like The Rock was going anywhere with any future programs anytime soon. So far, so good. I think the show is pretty good up until this point, and here we get ready for the first match of the show: Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa in a tribal warfare match. And this match overall is a pretty good match, and it was obviously a very historic match because it was the first match of the Netflix era. As Triple H announced earlier in the show, this era is going to be known as the Netflix era, and certainly this show overall is unlike anything I've ever seen in my history of watching WWE ever since I started watching in the Attitude Era back in 2001. And in short, my own personal history with the WWF/WWE is that I was a huge fan of the Attitude Era myself, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. My own personal perspective reviewing this show is the Attitude Era was the best of the WWF, and I even loved the Ruthless Aggression Era probably almost as much. And I personally stopped watching wrestling in 2011, and part of that was just growing up and didn't really have the time to watch it. But also, I just didn't feel motivated to watch it mainly because WWF was slash WWE is not what it used to be when I was growing up. They lost the star power. They lost Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of a kind. They lost Shawn Michaels at that point. And however, back in 2011, they still had some pretty good stars, and it was still a show which I would say is worthy of being WWE professional wrestling. And we'll talk about that term wrestling, a term that Vince McMahon did not like using, and maybe we would not be using the term wrestling today if it wasn't for Triple H's creative decision to bring back that word. And of all the things that of all the changes that Triple H has made to the show, and the wrestling thing is probably using the word wrestling is probably the thing that I most agree with. In regards to a lot of other changes, I'm not sure I agree with them, and I think and we'll probably talk about that as this first episode of Netflix Raw review goes on. Anyway, back to the show. So Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. First of all, I'm personally sick of this what's it called this sorry, I had mind blank. This what's it called, the dynasty, the tribal dynasty, this tribal chief storyline. This tribal chief storyline is this has just gone on far too long. And hey, I love tag teams and I love factions in the WWF. I love the NWO, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, X-Pac, Kevin Nash. I love Evolution back when I was watching as a child. I loved Triple H, Ric Flair. I love that whole heel faction that was dominating the WWE from 2003 to 2005. But to me, the tribal chief faction is it just doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it to Evolution. It doesn't cut it to the NWO. It just has gone on way too long for something that is just a lower grade, a lower tier to what the best factions in the WWF have. And What the tribal, what's it called? The tribal chief faction? I forget I forget the name. Mm, Sorry about that, but maybe that just shows you how little interested I am in this storyline of the tribal chief faction. But to me, it's not a bad idea. But the main problem I have is that this team is a team that would have been in the mid card or in the lower card in the Attitude Era. It just would have been. It would have been. I mean, I don't really get these characters, but in summary, none of these guys in this team have any edge. They just lack edge. They're big guys, they're athletic guys, they're tough looking guys, but they don't have any edge. They just, to me, they just lack depth. They just lack depth other than being big and burly. They just lack depth. Now Roman Reigns is a bit of an exception. He seems to have some depth to his character, but even Roman Reigns is just a guy who he would have been in the mid card, wrestling with Edge, wrestling with Lance Storm, wrestling with Jeff Hardy during the Attitude Era. He just Roman Reigns has been the guy who's been chosen to lead this company for the past 10 years, and ever since he defeated Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20, WrestleMania 34, was it? Or no, 30. He beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 38. So ever since then, and ever since his 4.5 year title run as champion, to me, to me, this guy is just not on the same level as the Attitude Era stars. He's not on the same level as Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not on the same level as Chris Jericho. He's not on the same level as The Rock. He's not on the same level as pretty much all the Attitude Era stars. And hey, I'm not necessarily knocking Reigns because, for perfectly frank, none of these WWF slash WWE superstars are on the same level as the top guys in the Attitude Era. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped watching WWE back in 2011. And back then it wasn't that bad because they still had a lot of Attitude Era guys. They still had a lot of talent, but now it went downhill. Thankfully, in the past 3 to 5 years, with Cody Rhodes returning, with Drew McIntyre rising up to the top, with and especially with CM Punk, who we will talk about later tonight, with CM Punk returning to the WWE, they now have a few really top guys, and it's not as obviously as top as it was in the Attitude Era or even the Ruthless Aggression Era, but they got enough top compelling guys that make me want to watch this stuff. And to be perfectly frank, I'm mainly watching this show because I get paid to do it. I mainly watch this show because it's my job. I was very interested in watching CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, but I'm not sure I would have watched any of the show if it wasn't for CM Punk and if I wasn't getting paid to review this stuff and watch this stuff. I don't know if I had the time or the interest more so to watch this show. I would watch the Attitude Era for free, which I did just last year. I watched the whole of 2001 of WWE, Raw, SmackDown, all the pay-per-views, and man, we can talk about that another time. But the Attitude Era 2001, just to get where I'm coming from, that is the best of WWF slash WWE. That is the very best. That is the best storytelling. That invasion angle when Stone Cold Steve Austin turned heel, that was the best storytelling I've ever seen in all of WWF slash WWE. I'll guess start calling it WWE from now on, just to just to just to stay consistent, not confuse everybody. I mean, we all know what we're referring to when we say WWE. Anyway, this match, it was, well, let me just walk you through the match. I thought, man, hey, I'm not really interested in this match because I'm not really interested in the Tribal Chief storyline. And I also just don't find Solo Sikoa to be a compelling character. He's just a big, tough guy, but he doesn't really He doesn't really seem to have any depth or edge that makes me think, hey, this guy, I don't know if he connects to the audience. I mean, let me know if you disagree with me. If you disagree with anything I say, let me hear it in the comments. I welcome all feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. Please put your comments in the comment section. Anyway, this match was pretty standard fare. Two big, burly, athletic guys fighting each other. And in typical WWE storytelling, it doesn't go as simple as just letting two guys sort itself out. Anyway, Roman Reigns spears Solo Sikoa and goes. Oh no, he spear him? Sorry, he power bombs Solo Sikoa off the turnbuckle through a table, and it was a pretty impressive looking move. But bam, out of nowhere. And I don't know how he made it to the ring without any of the audience members seeing. Did he come up from under the ring like the Undertaker or Doug Basham? Tama Tonga interferes, stops the pinfall, and then there's a bit of a brawl between Tama Tonga and Roman Reigns, and it doesn't end there. In comes the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu, and Jimmy Uso. However, to the save, some allies for Roman Reigns. In comes. Sorry, I'm having a brief mind blank. This is the first show, so please excuse me. Please excuse me. Um, in comes. I should really start taking notes, shouldn't I? But uh, I watched this show just a few hours ago, so I should remember this. But in comes what's his name? Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso. Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso. Sorry, did I make a mistake back there? Okay. So Sami Zayn comes out to the rescue, and unfortunately he rescues him, but it doesn't end there. Roman Reigns come back, puts up a fight, spear, goes for the pin, hits Solo Sikoa, and then out comes Kevin Owens, and he is apparently siding against Roman Reigns, so he's a heel. Last time I watched this show, I think was SummerSlam, or so he's a heel now, and he's fighting Roman Reigns. But Cody Rhodes, who I assume is a SmackDown superstar because he didn't wrestle or appear on this show. I don't know if the brand split's still in place. Cody Rhodes hits Kevin Owens with his special finishing move. Sorry, I should really do my homework, and I've just had another mind blank. He what's that move when he jumps springboard off the top rope? The Cody Cutter. He does a Cody Cutter. Second, and yeah, Roman Reigns. At that point, Roman Reigns is pretty much all on top of what's his name? Solo Sikoa, and yeah, so the match pretty much ended after that. Roman Reigns just speared what's his name? Solo, and the match ended, and it was a pretty action packed, drama filled match with a lot of interferences by outside characters, and overall it was a very historic match, being the very first match of the Netflix era, and I thought it lived up to it. I think it did a pretty good job. It wasn't the most memorable match, although to some extent it was because it was just the first match, but I did a pretty good job of introducing new viewers and returning viewers of yeah, this is all intertwined. It's never really two guys fighting each other in the WWF. Even if you're not a part of a tag team or a faction, people are gonna get involved in your business, and that's just the way it is in WWF. And if you're used to watching NFL or sport or boxing or UFC, you probably think, "What the heck is this? You can just walk into a match and beat the F out of somebody." And well, that's the difference between WWE sports entertainment and real sport. But to me, this is drama, and this is how it was in the Attitude Era, whether it was Stone Cold, Undertaker, Triple H fighting, bang, 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 bang. Undertaker's getting on top of Triple H, bang, 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 bang. The Rock gets involved, bang, and then Triple H gets the pin over the Undertaker. That's just how things went in the Attitude Era, and I personally have no problem with this type of storytelling. Now, if you're into realism, if you're into the UFC, boxing, hey, you welcome to the WWF. We do things a little differently in the WWE, and that's that's just uh that's just how it goes. And now to get back to a little bit of onto the production values of the show. Well, the opening montage, the whole introduction by Triple H, the graphic design, the production design of WWE is outstanding, top of the world, top class. The arena looked fantastic, the graphics looked fantastic, but it seemed like the producers of the show thought it looked a little too fantastic because they kept showing all these packages of, hey, buy your tickets in Buffalo, New York. Hey, buy your tickets in California. Hey, buy your tickets in Indianapolis. Hey, buy your tickets to WrestleMania next year or WrestleMania this year in Las Vegas. And it's like, man, you know, this show um was just first of all, you could study this show as a TV producer, as a film student, you could study this show and compare this show to WWF of the Attitude Era. I mean, I'm going to do a review, a full analysis, a full side by side comparison of this show compared to what WWF was like when I was watching in the Ruthless Aggression era, when I was watching in the Attitude Era. I mean, this is just a totally different presentation, totally different. I thought it was kind of un, um, just bad taste or just a bad creative judgment for The Rock to reference a producer of the show, a Netflix producer. It's like you kind of breaking the fourth wall by just acknowledging these producers who's probably never going to take any part in the show. I mean, Vince McMahon, he played a part in the WWF. He played a he was an on-screen character and he was a real boss and CEO, but he was an on-screen character. Now you're referencing this guy from Netflix, and it's like I've watched WrestleMania 40 last year, and they were referencing Nick Khan, who was the one of the head producers of the WWF, WWE, and I just thought all these references to people who are on the side, like I get it, I get how it's nice to be acknowledged for your work, but this is, I mean, when you watch a game of the NFL, do they have credits at the end? Like, I don't watch the NFL, but I'm pretty sure they don't have credits for who the cameramen were and who the assistants were, who the truck drivers were, who the electricians were, who did this, who did that. But is it really necessary to just break the fourth wall? And I thought, at first I thought this is, it's kind of stupid, but at the same time, I feel like WWF was so bad I mean, WWE was so bad at storytelling in recent years, like from 2018 to 2022, and it started getting good again when Cody Rhodes came back at WrestleMania 38. But the wrestling storytelling was getting so bad that when Vince McMahon left, then they started presenting the presentation of the show as more like a reality TV show than an actual storyline, like a series like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. Like those television shows are the top storytelling television shows in recent years, but it had excellent writing. And modern day WWE, sorry, it don't have excellent writing. So now they've gone away with, telling stories and more like presenting it as a reality TV show. They're getting, they're doing behind the scenes stuff with YouTube and interviews. I watched a interview with Seth Rollins and CM Punk, which was a pretty. intense. It was a gripping interview, and it sounded real. And now we're getting into territory of which is real, which is real heat between people. And I get the sense that CM Punk and Seth Rollins really don't like each other, which from an audience perspective, hey, if you can't tell a story by writing a script, then maybe presenting something as real and just going with that and just presenting the show as more of a reality show about people who have in some cases real heat, but probably most of the superstars get along with each other and it's manufactured heat. But yeah, so as I said, Roman and Solo Sikoa were the start of the show, but I'm so glad that CM Punk and Seth Rollins were the finishing of the show because I heard a rumor from our good old buddy Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Roman and Solo were going to be the end, which to me would have just it wouldn't have made any sense. Anyway, to get back next that we only had 4 matches on this show and it was a 3-hour show, and from that perspective it was just a very weird show compared to what I watched in the Attitude Era, where you'd have maybe 8 matches that were maybe 2 to 3, 5, 10 minutes max in a 1.5 hour show, and you didn't have all this filler, all these constant references to future shows. And man, we're gonna discuss something that was absolutely bizarre after I discussed Rhea Ripley's match with Liv Morgan. Anyway, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. First of all, Rhea Ripley, she looks like a star. When I saw her at WrestleMania 40 last year, her entrance, her vibe, her attitude, she looks like a star, and she looks like she could be a mainstream star. Like to me, she looks like a rock star, and she just presents herself like a star, and she's got attitude, and bright things are bright things are looking up for Rhea Ripley. And to be very brief, she did 2 riptides to Liv Morgan, and she won this match in a fairly good contest, which is typical to expect from Rhea Ripley. So that was a fairly decent match. I mean, if I were to rate the first match, I would rate it a 8 out of 10. To this match, I'd probably rate it maybe a 7 out of 10. Like, it was a good contest, but there wasn't a whole lot of drama. And this match, it was good, but it didn't really elevate itself to something that was, truly spectacular. Anyway, John Cena returns, and one of the reasons I decided to review Raw on Netflix is because of John Cena. John Cena was a man with attitude. John Cena was the top guy during the Ruthless Aggression era, and he loves his business. And I was a little surprised he kind of went away fairly young for a guy who's such a workaholic. But John Cena came back, and he basically said, "Hey, I haven't won a match in 2,500 days," which to me is a little shocking. But to me, it's not surprising. John Cena has been a bit of a waste for such a great talent and for such a great guy. I mean, I give him credit for putting younger guys over, but for the past 2,000, so he hasn't won a match in about 5 years. I think the last time he won a match was maybe against Austin Theory at WrestleMania 35. So I'm not sure if I can remember he actually won that match. So correct me in the comments, but I think WrestleMania 35 in 2019 was the last time John Cena won a match. So the dates line up. That's about 2,400 days ago. So John Cena basically says, "Hey, I haven't won a match in 2,500 days. You know, I'm coming back, but I'm not coming back for the titles." But then he says, "I don't know how to get the title." Then he says, "Oh, well, maybe if I win the Royal Rumble, then I can come champion." And yeah, I think this is the right way to book John Cena. I mean, John Cena's he was the star and he was the top guy. He's kind of in the same category as Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H. I mean, he's to be frank, he's not as talented as those guys. Not to knock Cena, but Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's the pinnacle of the WWF/WWE. And but that said, John Cena is a very talented guy and he's very talented, but booking a once great champion like a loser as he's been booked for the past 5 years hasn't done John Cena any favors. So yeah, I'm hoping to see Cena back in the title picture, and I'm guessing he's probably gonna win the Royal Rumble. I mean, we could talk about that next week. Who do you think's gonna win the Royal Rumble? But I hope Cena wins because Cena is such a great talent. He does look a little old, and he doesn't look like as much of a superstar as he used to. But his biceps are still pretty big, and yeah, I'm sure he can go toe to toe with someone. But I'm guessing he's gonna face Cody Rhodes or Gunther. I don't know who I want him to face, but I'm guessing no feud with both these guys in the upcoming year on the John Cena Farewell Tour, as his shirt fittingly shows. Anyway, the next match on the card was Drew McIntyre versus Jay Uso. Well, I'm a huge fan of Drew McIntyre. He's one of the top guys in this industry, and we'll discuss next week who I believe the top guys are. And I haven't been watching Raw and SmackDown every week for the past recent years. I've only been watching the pay-per-views and following online like a fan, like a mark. Some people say the term mark is a bit of an insult, but hey, I'm a fan of this stuff, and to be frank, I'm reviewing this stuff mainly for financial purposes. So if you want to support me when I open up my Patreon account, only 99 cents a month, you can support me. But hey, this is the first show, so don't feel any hurry to support this show until I've released a few shows and hopefully you're satisfied with the content. Anyway, so they had a standard brawl, a standard fight between a very big muscled up Scott who looks like a Viking warrior, Drew McIntyre, and Jay Uso. And what can I say about this match? It was pretty standard fare. It looked like Jay Uso, uh, passed out or was about to pass out. And I don't know if that was scripted or not, but I just love it. I love it watching WWE when I cannot work out whether people are faking getting injured. And I have to admit, I personally am pretty bad at guessing who is injured or who's faking an injury or who's not. But it looked like Jay Uso may have suffered a serious concussion, and I guess I'll find out next week if that really was a serious concussion or serious faint. Drew McIntyre goes to the Claymore kick, and Jay Uso just collapses. Like I don't know what happened, and then he goes to do another Claymore kick, and then Jay Uso gets the pinfall. Um, he dodges the kick and then gets the pinfall on Drew McIntyre, which was a very unexpected result. Like for a big tough guy like Drew McIntyre, he looks like Superman to lose to Jay Uso, who is kind of like a guy in the lower card. Oh, well, he's booked up towards that card, but he's kind of booked more than his talent permits, as that horrible match between Jay and Jimmy Uso last year at WrestleMania 40 shows. Uh, Jey Uso is not the most talented superstar, and I don't know if you see anything in him from a character standpoint of view, but he's just another big guy, and I don't get the character of Jey Uso. So it's surprising that he got over Drew McIntyre, but I suppose that's how storytelling goes. You can't always have the expected result happen all the time. Anyway, after more long, 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 just complete filler, just complete. Oh, we're gonna sell tickets here. We're gonna do this here. We're gonna do this here. Oh, and another thing I just forgot to mention is that it was about 10 to 12 minutes since Jay Uso entered the arena, and then Drew McIntyre entered the arena to start the match. I mean, he enters the arena and he enters with this guy called Travis Scott, who's a major celebrity, a major rap artist, and I've been listening to Scott in nightclubs, and I heard this song tonight, and I thought, hey, I reckon that song somewhere. Anyway, it comes out with Travis Scott, but then there's a a package for the match about once Jey Uso enters the ring. Then they return to the music, and then his entrance music, and then they return to an advertising tickets, I believe in Indianapolis or somewhere. Then they come and they show the outside arena of the Los Angeles arena. So they show about three clips. Two clips have nothing to do with the match whatsoever. Before his entrance music, before Jey Uso's entrance even finishes. I mean, what the heck? I mean, the entrance is supposed to be part of the match. I mean, once the entrance happens, you get started. If it's not an important match, the commentators can talk about stuff or say stuff or buy tickets here or buy there. But you're doing an entrance, and then these things are supposed to happen between the matches, not during the entrance of the match. I mean, if it's a low level match or this show is billed as a pay per view, and then you're showing all these clips, and this show was about 3 hours long, and maybe 2 hours max was, or 1.5 hours max was matches. The rest was mostly just filler and just arena shots of the outside of Los Angeles and advertising upcoming shows. And it's like, yeah, you can advertise on upcoming shows when you got matches. Hey, Roman Reigns is facing Seth Rollins on this day. Jimmy Uso is facing Sami Zayn on this day. You can if you got a show that's coming up and you can say, hey, these are the matches that's happening on that show. You can show it. But now you're advertising matches 2-3 months away. You're advertising the Royal Rumble, even though the Royal Rumble's in over a month. I believe it's February 2, and you keep advertising all these shows, and it's like this show was just full of massive amounts of filler, and we can talk about that in more detail next week. But I don't know what the heck was going on with this filler, and there's a lot to talk about, and in regards to things Vince McMahon would hate about this show, or he would hate all this filler. I mean, this is certainly very different from the Attitude Era. But hey, my guess is unfortunately, they don't have the star power and they don't have the writing talent to write these stars or to bring the best out of these stars. So, this is a Netflix era. So I'm assuming um the what's it called, the age restrictions, the maturity limit, the ratings. I'm assuring this doesn't have to be advertiser friendly necessarily. So I'm assuming they have more creative freedom, and so this is just the first show of the Netflix era. So we'll see where the Netflix era goes from here on in. But I'm hoping the Netflix era brings something different. And this is just the first show, which was really just a blow off show. It was just a basically a pay per view for the shows at the end of last year. Anyway, we're back to the main event, the match that I feel like I've been waiting for 10 years, a match that I've been waiting for since at least November 2023 when CM Punk returned to the WWE at that infamous Survivor Series War Games match. Seth Rollins was looking like he was legit heat with CM Punk, about to beat the living heck out of CM Punk. Unfortunately, with injuries, and also he seemed to have heat with Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins was in that SummerSlam match as the referee with Drew McIntyre, which I thought was an odd choice considering how much heat Seth has with CM Punk. But overall, I've watched the promos these guys had. I listened to the Seth Rollins interview, and yeah, Seth Rollins on that YouTube interview, which I don't believe was actually streamed on the Raw, but was YouTube. You should check out that interview if you haven't watched this Raw, and watch this match. And by the way, I won't be offended if you go watch Seth Rollins on Netflix and subscribe to Netflix right now and watch that match, because I wouldn't want to spoil the end of this match for you. Just make sure you hit the pause button and come back once you watch CM Punk to Seth Rollins so you can hear my review of this match. Anyway, man, what can I say about this match? Well, Seth Rollins, as I was saying in the interview, he basically said, "Hey, uh, you know, I was the top guy. I was on this ship, and then CM Punk, he left the ship. He left the ship in 2014. He had personal issues with Vince McMahon, with Triple H, and he left, and those personal issues. To be brief, well, first of all, he got a "you're fired" letter on the day of his wedding on his mailbox. And CM Punk seemed to say that, hey, this is bad, and I personally side. I don't side with CM Punk on this issue. I feel like if you get a letter that says you're fired, I'm not sure your boss. I think you're being a little paranoid to say, hey, um, you intentionally sent me this "you're fired" letter on the day of my wedding. Like, I think Punk's being a little paranoid there, and I could be wrong. I mean, let me know if you work in business. Do you think checking the day someone's getting married is something you would do when you're sending them a letter? Anyway, I thought Punk had issues with the company anyway and wanted to quit. Anyway, Punk was he was ranting, he was railing, he was saying, I've had it with this stuff, and how much of it had to do with that personal issue of getting the "you're fired" letter on the day of his wedding. Anyway, I think he took a cheap shot against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins fired back on on social media. He said, "You're not wanted here. You never wanted here." In the interview, Seth Rollins said, "Hey, I hated hearing those CM Punk chants." He was a huge fan of CM Punk as a child. He trained with CM Punk, but he didn't have the money to continue. And he was on the ship with CM Punk. And then when times got tough, when business got tough in 2013, 2014, 2018, Punk wasn't there. He just left. He left, and then he trashed the company, badmouthed the company, badmouthed Seth Rollins. And, CM Punk was there. I mean, Seth Rollins was there when times are tough. CM Punk wasn't there. And Seth Rollins feels betrayed by that. So it kind of clarified what the issue between CM Punk and Seth Rollins was. And to be frank, I kind of understand Seth Rollins' perspective. I kind of understand that perspective. Seth Rollins seems to be a man of loyalty. He goes down with the ship. He doesn't just take the easy way route. He doesn't just go looking elsewhere. I have sympathy with CM Punk's perspective as well. Although I don't think I know as much about CM Punk's issues with the company. And to be perfectly frank, I feel like CM Punk is being, you know, I respect CM Punk as a talent, but the way he said, "I'm never ever coming back. I'm never ever coming back." And I love the whole cult of personality. I love the conviction. I love the pipe bomb he cut on that famous episode of Raw back in 2011, I believe it was. I like that. I love it. But he said he's never ever coming back, and he came back. And as much as I like seeing Punk, it's very hard for me to argue that that's not hypocritical to say you're never ever coming back. But you do come back. I mean, he went to AEW, he went to UFC, and I get the sense that he said, "Hey, it's not any better in AEW, so hey, maybe I have to second guess myself. Maybe WWE wasn't all that bad." And we'll talk about AEW in upcoming episodes, but I love Punk. I love Punk as a superstar. I love Punk as a talent, and absolutely no doubt, CM Punk is the most talented and most valuable superstar in the WWE right now, and he's been the most talented ever since 2023. And even when he wasn't there, he probably was the most talented. And I don't think I'm exaggerating to say that CM Punk is the closest thing the WWE has to a Stone Cold Steve Austin since the Attitude Era, and you can mark my words right there. CM Punk could be booked as the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the way he was booked when he was injured, the way he was booked in that as the commentator in that match between Seth Rollins and Damian Priest at WrestleMania 40. The way it was very similar to how Stone Cold Steve Austin was booked when Stone Cold Steve Austin was unable to perform. So, what can I say between CM Punk and Seth Rollins? What can I say about this match? This match was full of intensity. This match was pretty much brawling. It looked like, hey, these guys, it don't look like they're going to cooperate with each other. It looks like they keep reversing moves early on the match, like, hey, I don't want this guy to get the edge of me. So yeah, I was kind of on the edge, and I kind of felt like, hey, this is going to turn into a real fight because I thought, hey, the heat, the real disdain these guys have for each other. I don't. I'm thinking this is going to turn into something that's really, really nasty and really fucking just out of control. So they brawl around, they fight around. This is really intense stuff. They go outside on the arena on the announce desk. It looks like Punk's gonna do a GTS. Seth Rollins reverses, does a pedigree. CM Punk bang on the announce table. And that announce table, it didn't break, and it doesn't seem like a lot of these announce tables break these days. And this announce table looked very sturdy, so I'm not even sure the announce table was intended to break. So now we have another situation, which is, you know, is this a real injury where Seth Rollins has injured his knee or not? I don't know, but hey, this is storytelling. So anyway, they eventually get back into the ring. They fight each other. Eventually, Seth Rollins gets Punk off the ropes, hits hits CM Punk with his own move, the GTS. 1, 2, Punk's out of it. CM Punk does a bit of a curb stomp of his own on Seth Rollins, and then it looked like later on during the match, shortly after, it looked like CM Punk picks up Seth Rollins to do a GTS, and it looks like CM Punk can't even stand up, just like Jey Uso. It looked like CM Punk may have been knocked unconscious. It looked like he couldn't barely stand up, and it looked like he was opening his eyes, and I think he may have briefly lost consciousness, woke up, and hits Seth Rollins with the GTS, and that's it. CM Punk won the match as kind of expected, but I also expected maybe there would be a swerve if Seth Rollins wins the match. Anyway, the match was very intense, very anticipated. However, I don't think this match was a masterpiece, a 10 out of 10 like I may have expected, but this is the first match in the feud. As we've seen with both CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Um, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at Hell in a Cell. Man, that match was a 10 out of 10 match. That match was, just something to be proud of in this era of inadequate and underwhelming WWE. That match was a that match was a masterpiece, and I think even Dave Meltzer gave that match 5 stars. And if you haven't watched CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at Hell in a Cell, you should definitely watch that. And also, Seth Rollins also had an amazing Hell in a Cell match back in a few years ago, back in 2022 against Seth freaking Rollins. And man, that match was also awesome, and may have been probably the two best matches of the decades of those matches. CM Punk versus McIntyre at Hell in a Cell, and Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. And both those guys, at least half of each man in each of those equations battered it out. So it's inevitable that CM Punk and Seth Rollins fight in Hell in a Cell, and I imagine that's probably going to be maybe the best match of the decade. Maybe the best match since Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26, which is personally personally my favorite of the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker matches. Anyway, CM Punk, you know, I'm glad CM Punk won because I think he should be booked as a guy that rarely loses. I think he should be booked like Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, CM Punk, he's not a perfect guy. He's a talented guy on the mic, but you know what? You know what I think about CM Punk? You know what I think about his backstage antics and how he seemed to pick on that little wrestler, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. And I mean, you know, to me, it just doesn't make you look good if you're just gonna pick on a smaller guy. So I don't know. But say what you will about Punk. Say what you will about, hey, this guy's kind of unprofessional. Say what you will about him. He's got talent. He's got charisma. And when you look into this guy's eyes, when I looked into this guy's eyes, CM Punk's eyes at the start of the match, man, this guy, he may be a flawed character, but sometimes the most flawed people are also the most talented people. I mean, if you ever heard of the actor Marlon Brando, Marlon Brando was kind of, he's kind of a bit of a jerk to work with. He kind of wanted to do his own thing, didn't really try to remember his lines, kind of write the own script. But, people worked with him. I mean, he was in Apocalypse Now. He was in Superman. And, he did his own thing, but hey, it was real. So I would compare CM Punk to Marlon Brando. Maybe a bit of an unprofessional guy. I mean, I think he has some validity behind. I think there's some truth to what CM Punk believes. So I'm not saying he's I'm not saying he's completely out of the line, but there probably is some truth to the fact that hey, CM Punk's been very talented. He's been very talented for very long, and probably is some truth to hey, this guy's talent. He could have been at the top maybe earlier than he was, but ultimately he was the champion in 2012 for a whole year. He did beat John Cena in that famous Money in the Bank match. So when CM Punk says, "Hey, I'm not, I got problems with my booking," or maybe he should have been booked like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He wasn't built like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I think if the WWE do right, he should be booked like Stone Cold Steve Austin because I can very much see that CM Punk could be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, I've got CM Punk right here, a signed poster. And I got very few WWE memorabilia myself, but by coincidence, I got this poster with a Royal Rumble 2014 Blu-ray disc that I ordered back in the day. And yeah, it just happens I got a CM Punk poster, which is convenient because if I'm gonna have one superstar in my studio, it's gonna be CM Punk because this is the guy I believe in. And if you learn anything about this Netflix Raw review, if you learn anything about the future of WWE, if you take one thing away from this show, if you're watching this Paul Levesque, if you're watching this Nick Khan, if you're watching this, just know that you need to book CM Punk like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because I'm telling you, you do have a Stone Cold Steve Austin like talent with you. It's CM Punk. CM Punk. CM Punk. Just remember those names. CM Punk. CM Punk. CM Punk. This final match of the show was Seth Rollins and CM Punk was a good match. Is probably the match of the night based on how anticipated it was. And I would rate this match probably a 9 out of 10, just on how much visceral feeling and how much intensity there was between these two guys. So it's kind of a brawl. It's kind of a in your face contest, and it was crossing the fourth wall of hey, these guys truly hate each other. So if you're ever gonna break the fourth wall, it's with two guys that truly despise each other. That said, I think these guys, Seth Rollins and CM Punk, have some mutual respect for each other because to me, they're both very similar. They're both very high quality in ring performers. And they're both very real when they speak, when they're on the mic. So, yeah, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, I think it might be a rivalry for the ages to come. Like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, like Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart, like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. I mean, this is a rivalry. I hope this rivalry rivals Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And CM Punk is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Remember that, Paul Levesque. Remember, he is CM. He doesn't drink like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not bald. He's not from Texas. He doesn't talk with a Texas swagger. But he's got edge. He's got attitude, which is something the WWE has been missing for quite a long time. Anyway, that's just about overall. This show was probably 8 out of 10. I think it was worthy of being a Netflix premiere episode of Raw. And I have high hopes for the WWE after watching this show. And I think things could get better, but I also think things could get much worse. So I'll let you know next week if we do get better or we do get worse. But certainly with CM Punk in the main event scene, I think we're likely to get better. See you later.